Welcome to the Scale House podcast. I'm your host, Clay Bowman, and this is episode one of the Scale House podcast. Thanks for joining us. It's great to have you with us, and it's great to welcome someone so awesome and cool to the podcast, Mike Mendiola, the owner and founder of TAC Insight. Mike, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Clay. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So how's it going down there? You're in Waco.
I'm just north of Waco, a small city of West.
Down Waco Way.
Yeah, just right off the highway here, but it's going good. It's Central Texas in July, so it's good and hot, but things are going great.
I know West a little bit. I know all about the kolaches there. Those are fantastic. I'm sure that you don't eat too many of those.
Oh, no, not too many. But I married into this, so but I certainly enjoy living here, and it's been a great place to raise a family.
Fantastic. Well, as you know, we're starting this podcast, and what we want to do is we want to discuss technology. We want to get in the forefront of the conversation. We want to talk about technology in our industry, how it's molding and shaping and forming things. I think that we can honestly see very clearly that it's having a huge impact. And I think, what a better way to really start kind of an open forum like this and to talk to yourself. You've been through a lot. You've been in this industry a long time. I understand that you really started in the scale house, right?
Well, I don't know if you want to put it that way. I guess I never really thought about it that way. When you say you've been in the industry a long time, you're basically just giving up your age. And so yes, I guess just to give a brief background, my parents are from Houston, so I was born and raised in the Houston area. And my dad was always in the computer business. Early on, he worked for a company that developed construction software and did a lot of work in the aggregate industry. And this is back in the pre-PC days, and this is on the IBM System 34, 36s, COBOL, RPG programming. And so I was always raised in this type of technology with always had punch cards laying around the house when we were kids, and that was the flash cards that we used. And
they were using the original batching systems that were made in the industry too, if I recall.
Right. So he did a lot of work in the aggregate industry, and this was in the late 80s. Really with the rise of the PCs, he decided to go out on his own and kind of take what he knew about the industry and wrote one of the first PC-based scale systems. And that was, of course, it was DOS based. He started Fastway in 1988. And
so I graduated high school, so I'm going to give up my age.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the year Fastway started. So he went out and made some slick brochures. Actually, I happen to have one here.
Do you really?
This was the very first.
What a treat.
From 1989, actually, the very first brochure that he made here. It's a Fastway brochure, and let's see here.
Hold it up a little bit for us.
Whatever you are weighing, Fastway makes it easy as pie. So
it's great.
Just a little bit of history.
What was on the back there? Let's see the back again. What was that?
The back of this thing is, you can see that just a little screenshot of the green screen there, and some dot matrix tickets and some 5 1/4 floppy disks there.
Wow.
So, yep.
Neat.
So that's late 80s. So also at the time, I was, he put me as, whenever I got to be, 17, 18 years old, in the summers, I was working in the scale houses of some of his customers. And
okay.
yeah, it was, I guess, largely to keep me doing what teenagers wanted to do in the summers. So to keep me straight and honest, I was working in the scale houses and
I have a
mainly
teenager making money right now too, so I get that.
mainly running the PCs, but of course, I was also driving the water trucks and
Oh
cleaning
wow.
out the pug mills. So, looking back on it, I think it was a very good and worthwhile experience. But of course, as a teenager, that was just absolutely dreadful experience. That's the last thing a 17-year-old wants to do is get up at 4:30 in the morning because trucks start running at 5. But it was a good experience as a 17-year-old kid running a scale house. So early on, I understood the importance of getting trucks across the scale, and so
Hmm.
that's kind of how I got my start in that industry in particular.
Nice. It's interesting to think about because I had no idea I would ever be in this industry either, Mike, ever.
Right,
Growing up in San Antonio, I used to pick up the bus. They'd pick us up in the morning at 6 a.m. I was the first one to get picked up out on Cielo Vista Road in San Antonio outside of the 1604 loop. And we drive right by the old Redland Stone Quarry, one of the largest holes in the ground in Texas. And I don't now Fiesta, Texas is in it. And I just had no idea all these years later I'd be in this
right,
industry. So
yeah, yeah,
here we are.
right. So I guess then I went off to school, went off to Baylor,
Nice.
majored in computer science, but took a lot of business classes too, and that was at
Hmm.
the insistence of my dad. He was smart enough to know that computer science was great to major in, but really needed to get the business experience as well. He was starting other businesses at the same time as well, and he just understood the need for that skill and in that background as well.
Your dad sounds
Um,
pretty interesting. I mean, what else was he into? What was
he
he doing?
they ended up. This is at the time when you were a developer back then. You were developing systems that didn't replace other systems. You were developing systems that were replacing paper. So Fastway was one of his businesses. It certainly kept him busy, and had a lot of had a lot of saturation in the Houston area and the Texas area, but he was also doing other things as well. So he was an entrepreneur, and he had good success. Um, so
Was
I went off.
computer software and the business always something that you had your eye on
Yeah,
as you were?
I grew up with it. We always had computers around the house, and this goes back to my early childhood. We had the very first computers that you can get your hands on, the Commodore VIC-20s, the Commodore 64s.
I had a 64.
Then when the early PCs came in, and he taught me how to program a little bit, and then I started picking stuff up on my own and just writing little games and things like that. So it was certainly something that um, I had an interest in.
Mhm.
I had a propensity for it, and so it was natural when it was time to go off to college to do computer science. Of course, computer science then is different than it is now, but computer science is computer science. So it was a good major, much smaller than it is now at Baylor, which is a pretty decent sized school now. Back then was much smaller, and so the computer science program was, in the classes we had 10, 12 kids in the class, so it was a great program to go
Awesome.
through. So
Very different than when I was there. I mean,
yeah. So the plan, I guess my plan at the time was I figured I'd graduate and go back and work in the family businesses.
hmm,
But as chance had it, I met what would be my wife my last year at school there, and her father had just passed away, and she happened to be from the area, and
hmm,
just didn't want to move and leave her mom. And so, hey, let's just stay up here. And I
hmm.
was at the same time recruited to do some work and worked for a life insurance company in the Waco area. Actually, it's the oldest life insurance company in Texas. And since I had a pretty strong background, I guess being a 23-year-old kid, I had a lot of classes that I took in accounting and understood accounting. And then on the development side, I was tasked to write some financial software for them, wrote big parts of an accounting system, commission compensation systems, and did that for a while, but always wanted to kind of be on my own. That's what I kind of grew up with, self-employment. And
Hmm.
so then soon after school, took my dad's DOS-based Fastway truck scale system and started redeveloping it completely in the new Windows platform.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so
And that would have
basically,
been what, 95 or
this was probably
98?
'96
Okay.
at the time. We really
We
skipped.
all know that as Windows 95, Windows
Yeah, we were there
98,
was Windows 3.1, and we
3.1.
really kind of skipped that and went into the straight. The 95 was really when Windows started
That was
taking
cutting
off.
edge.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then at the time, that was one of the first Windows based truck scale systems. And
Fantastic.
so we,
Hmm.
developed that. Actually, I have the first Windows version of Fastway. You want to see that?
Love to.
All
Yeah,
right, here
that'd be
we go.
great.
Here we go. Look, version 1. Here we go.
Wow.
Yep. It took four.
Put that under the glass.
It took four 3.5-inch floppies to install Fastway Windows version 1.0. So there you go.
Fantastic.
Looks remarkably like the universal save icon, doesn't it?
That's
All right.
great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
I think that's all the props that
That
I'm
was
going
awesome.
today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
So, but that's where it has to begin. I mean, you were innovating then. Fastway's innovating now. That's what it's all about. So let's talk about it. I mean,
Yeah, I guess we'll bring it quickly up to I guess up to current time. So then sold Fastway as Windows based system there in the late 90s. And then in 99 2000, I met up with the other business partner, Steve Rasmussen. We did a big installation. He was working for a heavy civil company that owned a pretty good sized quarry in Florida, and we went in and did some pretty innovative stuff there. They were doing 1,500 loads a day.
strong.
We did we were video capturing every load. We were overlaying the images of the trucks on the tickets. We were turning lights off and on when trucks were going across the scale. So did a pretty good and successful implementation there, and kind of caught his eye, and worked with him on some other projects for years and years, and then got to the point where he decided, hey, I think maybe I'm ready to get out on my own as well. So hey, let's partner up and start something here. At the time, my dad was um, looking at retirement age, and it kind of made sense to partner up with
Sure.
Steve and start a new company, and that was TAC Insight, and that was I guess about 2012 or so. And we at the time we were modernizing the Fastway platform a little bit. We were developing some wrappers that brought the data to the cloud and things like that, but it
Hmm.
was still highly constrained with the old technology and the old platform that it was written on, and we couldn't just do the things that we wanted to do with the old code base. So it became very clear that to do it right, we needed to do it over again. So just like we went, redeveloped it completely from DOS
What
to
year was that
Windows. This was
that
probably
decision
in
was made?
2000. This was probably in 2014 or
Okay.
so, 15. So we started over. We started from scratch and rewrote the system in modern development tools, languages, both
Hmm.
on the Windows desktop side and application side, but also on the website as well. And so things were, developed in modern programming practices, techniques, and tools, and that enabled us to really from scratch architect it in the way that a true multi-tenant cloud-based software as a solution, back end and front end, needed to be developed in. So we set everything on a very modern Microsoft platform as a service, Azure architecture.
Hmm.
And so it really enabled us to have an extremely scalable platform. So we didn't have to host hardware, things like that. So we can scale with the click of a button. It also enabled us to get out of the concept of in the scale house installing software as a desktop application, and now we think of this stuff more as an app or just an appliance, very lightweight. If
Right.
I kind of go back to my days in the scale house, the most stressed I've ever been was having trucks lined up at the scale. I mean, that's just a terrible, awful feeling. And that was as a person running the software. Then as a developer developing the software, the worst thing conceivable would be for trucks to line up
How
back up at
unique.
the
Yeah.
scale house.
That's very
And
unique to have
and
that
so
perspective. Yeah.
yeah, you always go back to that. And so you realize that it's such an advantage to have this lightweight software written as an appliance or as an app in the scale houses. And if hardware goes down, throw it out, get another piece in, and you don't have to do big installs. You don't have to load from backups. It syncs up.
Right. Hmm.
Just like it would sync up from a Dropbox or another cloud-based service like that, and you're off and running. And so it brings a lot of that risk out of it. And so it's enabled us to be very, very forward thinking and very, very successful in this version of the platform.
You had a lot of insight, and when you're talking about the app itself, in the scale house, I mean, you have with the TAC Insight program that you had an opportunity to engineer it so uniquely, with the idea that, everybody else, even if there's not this connectivity, if I understand it correctly, if there's not this connectivity in the scale house, everybody's still working in the web portal, but the scale house can still stand alone and operate and get the trucks off the scale.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that when people say, and I think people are understanding now as the industry gets more educated. But you think about cloud-based software, you think, well, I can't have that because if the internet goes down, I can't get my
Right.
trucks across the. Well, I obviously that going into it, we knew that that wasn't going to be acceptable. So there are local databases. Obviously, it does operate completely without an internet connection.
Nice.
I always like to think of it just like a Dropbox. I mean,
Hmm.
you can still work on your Word document even though you don't have internet. But as soon as you do,
That's
things
fantastic.
get
Yeah.
back in sync.
Hmm.
And so that's the way that we think about this stuff.
Awesome. Well, what a unique perspective you have, and I'm sure that our audience is really, connecting with the idea that you spent some time doing this, and then obviously your family has been developing software for our industry, and it's so cool to see the industry itself moving forward and advancing, and we have to keep innovating. We can't stop. And I would say being in the industry now almost 25 years, that it can be a little slow, these adoptions, if you will, to move to new platforms or new ways of thinking can be slow. Do you feel the same way, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a generalization that I guess I've always had in the back of my mind that this industry is a few steps behind,
Hmm.
financial industries and things like that. But it's got to catch up. I mean, it's going to. You see the owners of these companies are retiring, and the younger generations are coming in,
They're
and
coming in. They sure are.
you cannot be a developer now without developing mobile applications.
Mhm.
So the
And they
demand,
have to be at the core of the product.
that
They
is
can't be
exactly.
an afterthought. They
No,
have to
yeah,
be built
exactly
in.
right. It can't be a bolt-on. It has to be, like you said, it has to be a core part of the product. People are demanding that level of interaction with the software. Yeah, it lags behind, but it's just by nature of people needing to touch the software, it's going to have to catch up. So.
Mhm. Agreed. You know, when you look at certain products in our industry, whether they're stockpile reports or carbon cure or all these technologies that are really impacting things, uh, we have to keep moving forward to that in that respect. And I'm glad to see that TAC Insight is leading the way there and taking that foothold, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, we're trying.
Well, this has been great, and I really appreciate you bringing all the props. I had no idea. This is completely unrehearsed, and it's been fun. I've learned some things today, and really appreciate you sharing with our audience a little bit about yourself and about TAC Insight. I'm sure they'll find it valuable, and hopefully we could do more here at the Scale House to bring other personalities in from our industry to talk about their failures and successes too.
All right. Sounds good, Clay. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.
All right. You too. All right. Thanks.